إن الصحابة كلهم كذكائي قد نوروا وجه الورى بضيائي. يا رب فارحمنا بصحب نبينا واغفر وأنت الله ذو آلاء.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all watching this, the fourth and final program in this series entitled The Rightly Guided Khilafat. In the previous programs, we'll be looking at the life and times of the first caliphs of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which included Hazrat Abu Bakr, Hazrat Umar and Hazrat Usman. In today's program, we'll be looking at the fourth caliph, Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu. Joining me today again, we have our two guests, Iyaz Mahmood Khan Sahib, who works for the Central Publications Department of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and Abdul Qudus Arif Sahib, who is a historian working for the Jamaat. A warm welcome to you both again. Hazrat Ali, who was he?
Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, his full name was Hazrat Ali ibn Abi Talib. His father's name was Abu Talib and his mother's name was Fatima bint Asad, and he was a cousin of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and also later went on to become his son-in-law. Hazrat Abu Talib, although he did not convert openly, his protection and love for the Holy Prophet ﷺ throughout his time in Mecca demonstrates that his heart was with the Holy Prophet ﷺ. When his grandfather Hazrat Abdul Muttalib passed away, it was Hazrat Abu Talib who took care of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and essentially became his guardian from childhood. And it is in his home that the Holy Prophet ﷺ grew up. And Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was the son of Hazrat Abu Talib.
So that means from a very tender young age, there was interaction between the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Hazrat Ali, and they grew up together in such a way?
So Hazrat Ali wasn't born at the time when the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to the guardianship of Hazrat Abu Talib. When the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came of mature age, Hazrat Hamza, who was the younger brother of Hazrat Abu Talib, they saw that Hazrat Abu Talib's financial situation wasn't too great, and Hazrat Hamza, along with the Holy Prophet ﷺ, they decided to take one son of Hazrat Abu Talib each to take their custody and look after them and become their guardians almost. And Hazrat Aqil bin Abi Talib went to Hazrat Hamza, and Hazrat Ali, who was about 6 or 7 years at the time, he came to the household of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So almost he was the son of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From 6 years all the way to the end of the life of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he remained attached, closely attached to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we know that he becomes his son-in-law as well. So this relation was further strengthened due to the fact that he became the son-in-law of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Hazrat Ali had the opportunity to accept Islam at a very young and tender age. Tell us about this acceptance.
Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was, according to some narrations, 8, 9, 10 years of age. Many narrations say that he was 10 years of age when he accepted the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad Sahib radiallahu anhu states in his book Sirat Khatam al-Nabiyyin that Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was like a son to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So essentially, when his father, so to speak, who was like a father, made this claim, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was going to follow the direction that his pious father, if you will, took him. So Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was always with the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and always supported his claim. And it was the Prophet of Islam who trained him and helped him grow as a human being, into a grown adult from childhood. But we find that when the Holy Prophet, that Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, he also proclaimed his support for the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in public as well.
Also, just as you mentioned, I understand we've got a special piece just on this point about Hazrat Ali amongst the first.
Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu was the son of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's uncle Abu Talib. He was born in Mecca about 20 years after the birth of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When Hazrat Ali was born, the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself became his guardian, as his father's financial position was quite weak. Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu was married to Hazrat Fatima Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anha, who was the daughter of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He may have been young when he accepted Islam. However, he was equally courageous and fearless when it came to pronouncing his faith and loyalty to the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It is well known that the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam preached quietly for the first 3 years, but upon divine commandment, he started preaching openly to the people of Makkah. On one such occasion, the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam invited nearby Meccans to a feast where the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam preached to the Meccans and asked them to accept Islam and assist him in his mission. There was a bitter silence. The Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam repeated his message again. No response, except for one. It was Hazrat Ali, the youngest of them all, who answered the call of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam at every instance. Upon this, the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam drew him close, pressed him to his chest, and said to the assembly, "This is my ambassador, my successor, and my vicegerent. Listen to him and obey his commands." Hazrat Ali was a brave and skilled warrior. He participated in almost all the battles along with the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. His famous sword, known as Zulfiqar, was feared and renowned by the Meccans. At every step of his life, he illustrated loyalty and fearlessness for the sake of Islam, and he lived and breathed Islam till his very last breath, when the Almighty Allah bestowed upon him the status of martyrdom, shahada.
Qudsi Sahib, we've just seen how Hazrat Ali was a very loyal companion throughout his life of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Even as a child, he was willing to give up his life for the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Tell us a bit more about the incident that took place in Mecca.
So when we find the incident of the hijrah or the migration, we know that Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq Radhiyallahu Anhu accompanied the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with him to Medina. But the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam directed Hazrat Ali to remain behind. And he said that, I have a lot of trusts, a lot of amanats that people have given me. I want you to give these trusts back to their people and then come to Medina. This shows you the character of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Here, people are after his blood, yet he only cares about ensuring that those things that are under his keep, they're entrusted back to those people that they belong to. So he says to Hazrat Ali that make sure you do this. And on the night of the hijrah, of migration, he says to Hazrat Ali that cloak yourself with my garment, with my clothes, and place yourself on my bed. And that's exactly what Hazrat Ali did. And the opponents who were waiting outside for the Prophet ﷺ, thinking him to be inside the room, they saw a man lying there, and it was Hazrat Ali. They realized this the very next morning, and actually beat him up for it as well. And they were inquired where the Holy Prophet ﷺ had gone to. So basically, he laid down his life because those individuals were literally after the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Imagine if they wanted to attack him during the middle of the night. They would have attacked him, thinking him to be the Prophet, and they would have attacked Hazrat Ali instead. And similarly, Hazrat Ali made sure that he gave back all the trusts that were given to him by the Prophet ﷺ, and then return to, or then migrate to Medina. And we find that the Holy Prophet ﷺ was in Quba still, so within the first 10 days of migration, and Hazrat Ali had caught up with him, and they entered Medina together. So it really shows you, his loyalty, his devotion to the companion, to the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Not just this, Hazur, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, would take Hazrat Ali to go out for preaching as well, to different localities. So he was always there. He was almost a shadow of the Prophet ﷺ when growing up. And that's something which is evident throughout his life.
We know from the books of history that Hazrat Ali played a very prominent role as a very sincere companion of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and at different times he was given different tasks by the Holy Prophet. What were those tasks?
The Holy Prophet ﷺ gave him various tasks. You're absolutely right. If we talk about his responsibilities in the various battles that took place in Islam, that is something that we see Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, amongst the many other things that he shined in, he also shone on this front as well. The Holy Prophet ﷺ, on various instances, it is recorded, would give him the standard of the Islamic Muslim army. And in those days, in early 7th century Arabia and in other times as well, in other civilizations as well, you always had this standard bearer, a person who would take hold of the flag of the army. And that was essentially a person who would represent the army, because the flag represented the army, and the fact that the army was going in to fight, and it demonstrated that they were very much alive and ready and prepared to take on the challenge. It was a means of honor, essentially. We know that the manner of warfare in that time was that before an all-out assault was waged between the two armies, people would come out for one-to-one combat, which is known as mubarzat, where a few people who are known as noble people from among each army, who are warriors who the army takes pride in, they would send those people out, and then they would have one-on-one combat, and then you would have the whole army come together. On the Battle of Badr, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, among the three people who were chosen, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, along with Hazrat Hamza and Hazrat Ubaidah radiallahu anhum, they were chosen, and Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu dispatched his enemy in a single blow. So he was a very talented, brave warrior, and we see that the Holy Prophet ﷺ, through his blessings, he offered great services in this regard.
So I think the Holy Prophet ﷺ also gave him the title of Asadullah, as the king, as the lion of God, which shows you his courage, his on the battlefield as well as off the battlefield, but it just really shows you his strength. But very interesting incident, I think, which happened on the battlefield again, was that again he was fighting someone, an opponent, and he managed to, become dominant over that opponent as well. And he had him on his knees, and he was about to give a strike, blow a strike upon him, and then the opponent, he spat on his face, and he withheld from that strike. And later on, people asked that, why didn't you finish the person off? I mean, you had the chance, the opportunity was there. You should have just carried out the blow. And Hazrat Ali said that because he spat on me, I didn't want anyone to think that I'm taking almost a retribution for that, almost a revenge for that, for the fact that he spat on me. Because then there's something about my ego will be within that. And what I want to do everything for the way of Allah. If there's an opponent, it should be an opponent of God, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, rather than something which is personal to me. Which shows you that it wasn't just that they were disciplined off the battlefield, but they were very much disciplined on the battlefield. They had a purpose behind it. They just weren't doing it for the sake of, killing people, but there was a big purpose behind even the battles that the Muslims fought at the time.
For that very reason, I understand that after his name, a very common term is used in Islamic history books.
Yes, it is said when we use the name of Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, we say Karramallahu wajha, that may Allah grant his countenance dignity and make it, grant it respect and honor. So again, Qudus Sahib, for a person to stop in the heat of battle demonstrates how pure-hearted that individual was. And it was that pure-heartedness which the Holy Prophet ﷺ always saw in him. And it was that reason that he also, one of the reasons that he gave his daughter in marriage to Hazrat Ali, his dearest daughter, who the Holy Prophet ﷺ had a special love and affection for. And it's narrated that whenever Hazrat Fatima would come, he would stand up and kiss her hands and give her respect and honor. So he married off his beloved daughter to Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. And the manner in which the Holy Prophet ﷺ made this marriage take place is also very beautiful. That the Holy Prophet ﷺ, like a father, asked Hazrat Ali, what have you got to arrange for the expenses of the marriage. And Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu said, I have not too much, I have a horse and I have some other things. And the Holy Prophet said, okay, keep the horse because this can be used for other purposes, but sell this and then come back to me and then we'll arrange the expenses of the marriage together. And it was such a simple marriage. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, literally, what did he give Hazrat Fatima in her dowry to take to her new home? It's said that a wheat grinder was given to her and some bedding, and that's about it. And Hazrat Fatima radiallahu anha kept that very dearly, and their relationship was a beautiful one too, and the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew that. It's narrated that one time Hazrat Fatima and Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, they got into a bit of an argument or a disagreement, and Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, he left the home and he lay down in the mosque. And there was dust in the mosque, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ came to the home of this couple and said, where's Ali? And he found out that they had a bit of a disagreement, and then the Holy Prophet ﷺ shows his love for Hazrat Ali. He went to the mosque and saw Hazrat Ali lying in the dust, and he said, oh Abu Turab. He addressed him by saying, oh father of the dust, as a title. And Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu says that I always looked upon this address of the Holy Prophet with great love and affection. How the Holy Prophet came and gave me love and said, what happens? Stand up. And they started. So this love and affection we find in Hazrat Ali, between Hazrat Ali and the Holy Prophet.
It's a huge life lesson here as well. The Holy Prophet ﷺ chose such a person for his daughter who wasn't financially well off, who wasn't wealthy, who wasn't well established. But he saw that he was a righteous and pure person. Now, this is a huge lesson for us, that when we say about hadith as well, that, oh, the Holy Prophet said that you should choose someone who's righteous and pious. Hazur gave a perfect example of it himself, that for his own daughter, his most beloved daughter, he chose someone who, in worldly terms, didn't have much, whose father had passed away. Right? So, in essence, this shows you that whatever the Prophet ﷺ, said, he actually practiced himself. So when Hazrat Ali always loved Hazrat Fatima so much, and we know that the progeny of the Prophet ﷺ continued from Hazrat Fatima's children, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, the two great Imams of the time who the Holy Prophet ﷺ had great love and affection for. So much so that Hazur ﷺ would carry them in his lap, he will kiss them, he will play around with them. Whilst Hazur was in namaz, the children will be on his back.
Just imagine that in the congregational prayer, when the Holy Prophet was leading the companions in prayer, his grandchildren would come and sit on his back, and he would remain in prostration until they would get off themselves. They would run under his legs, and the Holy Prophet would never rebuke them.
It wasn't just the Holy Prophet ﷺ who had a loving relationship with Hazrat Ali. The other companions also had a very loving relationship. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that at the time of the marriage of Hazrat Ali with Hazrat Fatima, Hazrat Usman bought the shield of Hazrat Ali off him and gave him money for this, but later on gifted the same shield back to Hazrat Ali, and which is a fantastic way of showing love and not harming the sentiment of the person who's getting married as well.
I think that point that Quddus Sahib mentioned is a very important point. How Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, to burden the basic expenditures of his marriage, was required to sell certain things that he owned, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ lovingly oversaw all of this. And the fact that the Holy Prophet gave away his most beloved daughter to a person who may not have been the wealthiest, who had to sell things in order to arrange for that marriage, the Holy Prophet chose him because he knew the inside of
So we know later on, after the demise, the very sad demise of Hazrat Usman, the martyrdom of Hazrat Usman, that took place in very difficult circumstances. Medina was under siege, we had a rebellion taking place, and it was at that time that Hazrat Ali became the fourth righteous caliph of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Tell us about the circumstances that were taking place. What do the books of history tell us about the stress that Medina was under at that time?
So we had, 3-4 different groups of people that were causing such mayhem within Medina. And it was very difficult for the government or the state to take control over again. In these circumstances, Hazrat Ali is selected as Khalifa, and he takes on the responsibility. And I think this is one of the biggest reasons why he had to migrate again to Kufa and re-establish the Muslim Darul Khilafah, the Muslim capital. Medina was under siege so much by these rebellious people that it was difficult to try, and you need a restart button. And that's exactly what Hazrat Ali did. He restarted the whole momentum of the Darul Khilafah, of having a seat of the Muslim empire, but in Kufa this time. You got to understand that Hazrat Ali had a very difficult Khilafat. He was not just facing opposition from within and trying to bring justice to those people that had murdered Hazrat Usman. So the biggest thing was trying to get that justice. And the bone of contention between him and Hazrat Amir Muawiyah was this very fact. Hazrat Amir Muawiyah said that before we even come to the next Khalifa, we need to take revenge of Hazrat Usman. Whereas Hazrat Ali knew that this moment in time, the best thing for the Muslim empire is to have a very cool approach, ensure that this corruption and this rebellion, this treachery, first that is dealt with, and then to, of course, take revenge of Hazrat Usman and bring those to justice that had martyred Hazrat Usman. But Amir Muawiyah was on another opinion. But that just shows you that he was facing so many oppositions on so many different levels that it was a very difficult circumstance for Hazrat Ali.
Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu didn't take on this mantle of this role of Khalifa willingly.
Yeah.
It was thrust upon him. When the people came to him, he said, I do not want to become Khalifa, because if I become Khalifa, people will say that I'm the one who had Usman radiallahu anhu martyred, and I wanted to be the Khalifa, so I will stay out of this. But then again the companions came to him and said that you must take this responsibility, otherwise the Muslim Ummah will disintegrate.
And there are many people in the Muslim world even today who consider the fact that Hazrat Ali should have been the first caliph. If he knew he was to be the first caliph, or if they know that he was meant to be the first caliph, why would he have such a response?
Well, that is a different discussion altogether. The people who say that Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu should have been the first caliph, they should look at the actions of Hazrat Ali himself. If Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, who was the Asadullah, who was the Lion of Allah, who was so brave and valiant, and who stood up and supported the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the age of 10, when all of his other elderly relatives had abandoned the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who had such courage, would he not have raised a voice and said that I am the Khalifa who the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam appointed after his demise? But we see that he is silent for so many years. And people say that, well, there's this concept of taqiyya. He hid the truth out of certain wisdoms to sort of this was his wisdom. But the fact is that if it was a matter of the instruction of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, Hazrat Ali would never have stood down. He would have said that I have been appointed, and you know that the Holy Prophet said this. But we see in history, he supported Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu in a very loving and loyal manner.
Did he pledge allegiance to Hazrat?
Of course he did.
Okay.
He supported Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu.
And he
pledged allegiance to. In fact, he even gave one of his daughters in marriage to Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, and vice versa. And he then pledged his allegiance to Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu to such extent that he sent his 2 sons to stand guard in the home, outside the home of Hazrat Uthman radiallahu. So for me to
with Hazrat Usman, when the 6 people were made of the committee, Hazrat Ali was also part of that committee.
Absolutely.
And when the majority of the vote went to Hazrat Usman, Hazrat Ali was the first one to put his hand forward and pledge his allegiance to Hazrat Usman.
He said, I give my vote to Uthman. So when we have this, and if we say that Hazrat Ali was the first Khalifa, but he stayed quiet, this, God forbid, shows him to be a very cowardly man, and we cannot accept that. Hazrat Ali was not a cowardly man.
It stains his character, because if he's meant to be a lion takes every risk. He pounds onto any opportunity. He's bold. But this is a very different picture of the Hazrat Ali that we know.
During the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, this individual will be exactly where the Prophet ﷺ, and we know from hadith that the Holy Prophet ﷺ will be on that place during the battlefield, which was the most dangerous place, and Hazrat Ali will be on his flanks. So this man of God, this Asadullah, this lion of God, right? Why would he, like Ayaz Sahib was mentioning, for at least 20 years or over 20 years, remain absolutely quiet and, hide his views and think that,
He wasn't even quiet. He played a very active role in the caliphates of the other people.
It is narrated, as Qudus Sahib is mentioning, that he was a part of all of the major decisions that the Khulafa took through consultation. He was a very important part of those. The Khulafa would ask him his opinion, and he was known among the companions as giving a very wise and a very strong point of view that was in line with the Quran and the Sunnah and wisdoms of the time.
There's a very famous incident of Hazrat Ali, and this always reflects his character as well. So Hazrat Ali, people were questioning him that, oh, why is this going wrong? Why is this going? Why isn't this happening? And they almost compared it to the life of the previous Khulafa, even the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, that everything seemed to be all right. And Hazrat Ali's response was so beautiful. He said, yes, during that time, I was the companion of the Prophet ﷺ. Now you are my companion. So there is going to be a difference.
Absolutely.
Which shows you that, look, he was, for him, Islam was everything. For him to serve the Islam and to serve the Holy Prophet ﷺ was everything. And he served not just him, but the Khulafa as well after him. But it's unfortunate that those people that came to serve him, they weren't of the same caliber. And that's why we find that there's so many different things happen during his Khilafat as well. And for me, my heart goes out to him. He because of all of that, he still remained so resilient.
Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu delayed his allegiance. In response to that, I would say he did ultimately give his oath of allegiance, which throws that allegation right out of the window. If he had not given his allegiance, then this would have been a question. But now, why did he delay his allegiance to Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu? Not because of any enmity in his heart, not because of any ill will, simply because when the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had passed away, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was first busy in the arrangements for the burial and the demise of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. He was taking care of all of the work that needed to be done around the house. And secondly, he spent a great deal of time with his wife, Hazrat Fatima, supporting her because she was emotionally in a very emotional state at the passing of her father. And Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu simply wanted to make sure that he was fulfilling his responsibility in his home and making sure that everything was in order. But as soon as he was finished with his responsibilities at home, he went and he gave his allegiance to Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu.
There's a very famous, another narrative is that Hazrat Ali also said that I didn't feel like it was necessary that
Absolutely.
I will go physically and have to pledge my allegiance to Hazrat Abu Bakr. I had already pledged allegiance to him within my heart, and I thought that was enough.
Absolutely.
And if people thought that, oh, I had to physically, he did do it 6 months later or a while later where he physically went as well. But that's very important. Hazrat Fatima passed away 6 months after the demise of the Prophet ﷺ anyway. That just shows you how much emotionally attached she was to the Prophet, like all the other Sahaba, but she was the daughter as well. The physical daughter as well. There was another level of connection there as well. And she was unwell. So if I'm sitting here and judging him for not, but it's incorrect for us to judge at this very moment because his actions speak louder than anything else, that he did everything for Hazrat Abu Bakr. He supported his every moment, not just Hazrat Abu Bakr, all the three Khulafa before him. He tried his level best to support them in all their endeavors. And that's what Hazrat Ali's character is.
Hazrat Muslim Maud radiallahu anhu has said that the fact that Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu accepted the office of Khilafat when it was insisted that he take up this responsibility, demonstrates his courage. He knew that people were going to raise this objection against him, that you had Uthman radiallahu anhu killed and now you wanted to be the Khalifa. And that's why he wanted to avoid taking this office. But despite that, he put his life on the line and he said that if I have to tarnish my own reputation for the sake of the unity of the Muslims, then I'm willing to do that as well.
Because this was continuing during the time of Hazrat Usman as well. You got to remember, people had already approached him to become the Khalifa during the life of Hazrat Usman. So you can just imagine that what difficult situation Hazrat Ali must have been, that a Khalifa just passed away. People had already approached me before. Now if I was to take this, people would just think that, hold on, what's happening here? That he must have a link, na'uzubillah, God forbid, with the martyrdom of Hazrat Usman. But in reality, like we mentioned before as well, he tried his level best to protect the life of Hazrat Usman.
And what more could he have done? The whole issue that when he became Khalifa was that there was a group of people who said that you must avenge Hazrat Uthman.
That included people like
And that
Hazrat
included
Aisha?
like Hazrat Aisha, it included people like Hazrat Zubair and Hazrat Talha. And when Hazrat Zubair and Hazrat Talha came to Hazrat Ali and said that now you've become the Khalifa, the first point of action is to seek retribution on for the case of Hazrat Uthman. And Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu responded very briefly in a very wise response. He said, addressed Hazrat Talha and Hazrat Zubair, and he said, you tell me, who is in power right now in Medina? Is it me or is it the rebels? And they said, the rebels. He said, then how can I take revenge for Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu? You must wait for the time to come where I come back in power, where I am in a position to exact justice, and then I will. The Quran says that you must take retribution for a life when a life is taken, but the Quran doesn't say that qisas or retribution needs to be taken right away, immediately. And I have to wait so that I can maintain the unity amongst the ummah and then find a appropriate time to seek justice for Hazrat Usman. But this disagreement continued, and that's why we see the events which essentially began from the time of Hazrat Uthman, and Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu had a very difficult time in his Khilafat, but he did his best.
So you're mentioning many of the prominent companions of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, even the wife of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. The situation must have been extremely stressful. There may have been a lot of miscommunications. Why was it that it got to a point that a war had to take place, or there was this situation developing?
So Jang-e-Jamal, or the war of the camel, the battle of the camel, was between basically Hazrat Aisha's and her army versus Ali and his supporters. And again, the bone of contention was Hazrat Usman's revenge. But both parties, especially Hazrat Aisha's party, they were just feeding in so much lies to Hazrat Aisha that Hazrat Ali doesn't want to take retribution, he doesn't want to do this, that and the other. That she was thinking that you got to understand that all the actions of the Sahaba were done for Allah. They were righteous people. They wanted to uphold the Sharia, they wanted to uphold whatever God had taught them and whatever the Holy Prophet ﷺ had taught them. So Hazrat Aisha think that the way is, of course, we need to take revenge of Hazrat Usman. And if Hazrat Ali's not doing it, then I'm going to take matters into my own hand. I'm going to try practicing what the Quran already teaches. Anyway, this battle takes place. Lots of Sahaba from both sides, they pass away. Great loss of lives we see during this time period as well.
But Qudus Sahib, if you permit me, before the war took place, this shows the pure intentions of the companions. When Hazrat Aisha and Hazrat Ali came together, Hazrat Ali said, why are you here? To Hazrat Aisha. And she said, I'm here to uphold the law of God. And Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu said, well, if you're here to uphold the law, then so am I. Why don't we have a discussion? Why should we go into war? And they had agreed that the next day there would be nice discussions in a civilized manner without any war. It was those mischief makers which were continuing from the time of Hazrat Uthman, which during the night, when both armies were asleep in their tents, they waged a attack. And then each side began to think, well, Hazrat Ali was thinking that, well, I just had a discussion with Aisha that I was going to talk to her tomorrow morning. And she thought, well, I had already spoken to Hazrat Ali and we were going to have a discussion. And that's why the war then became. So these companions didn't do this. It was those same mischief makers who were igniting the fire.
Again, at the end, when they do come face to face and they do have that discussion, Hazrat Aisha completely understands the point of view of Hazrat Ali.
Yeah.
She completely understands, which shows you that she definitely pledges her allegiance to Hazrat Ali. Not just this, Hazrat Ali, of course, she's al Mu'mineen, she's the mother of the believers. He says to Hazrat Aisha's brother that take her away and make sure she's safe and everything. And in my mind, there's a beautiful scene of her on a camel with her brother, and they're being escorted out very lovingly and caringly. Hazrat Ali's making sure that nothing happens to them, they have a safe passage out. And Hazrat Aisha is completely in agreement with the stance of Hazrat Ali, which shows you that, again, like Ayaz Sahib was mentioning, that both of them were trying to do their best to keep the Muslim empire safe, and for them, for not just them, for others to follow the way of Allah as well.
So we mentioned Hazrat Fatima's death. How did Hazrat Ali's death take place?
Hazrat Ali, again, a very tragic incident. This these tensions and all of this was going on at the time of from the time of Hazrat Uthman and trickled into the era of Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. We find that after the battle of Jamal, there was this other narrative which took place where there was this constant discussion. I don't want to say a fight, because it wasn't a fight. It was just a difference of opinion where Amir Muawiyah was pressing the point that we need to take retribution for Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu. And Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu continued to explain his point of view and the wisdoms behind why immediately retribution could not be taken, because it sacrificed the unity of the entire ummah as a whole, and we needed to first consolidate our strength and then take this action and these measures. Eventually, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu and Amir Muawiyah, they came to an agreement, and there was a truce between them where it was there was an understanding which essentially took place between them, where they sort of accepted that they had a difference of opinion, but they respected that we need to work together and we need to put an end to these tensions. It was at that time, Hazrat Muslim Maud radiallahu anhu mentions that when the two had come to an agreement, it was at that time that the rebels realized that their plans had failed. Because their entire, this process of instigating and putting fuel on the fire, that had come to an end, because now there was no more differences amongst the Muslims that they could exploit. And it's at that time that they decided that now all that can be done is that we put an end to the Khalifa. And then it's narrated that they...
Before that, there's a really famous words of Hazrat Amir Muawiyah. And he really addresses those people. He says that those people that were making these mischiefs and being a nuisance. And he says that if you think that I'm gonna watch you attack Ali, then you're wrong. The first person to protect Ali will be me and my army. I will stand outside his house if I have to. So that just shows you that Hazrat Amir Muawiyah, who was a Sahabi of the Prophet ﷺ as well, he was willing to do anything, of course, for the unity of the community as well. So that's a very famous incident where what he said.
So the rebels had decided that they were going to launch various attacks at around the same time in different regions. And one of the persons who was going to be attacked was Amir Muawiyah, Hazrat Amir Muawiyah. Another one was Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. And ultimately, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, when he came for Fajr prayer, 3 people attacked him at once, and the wounds that he sustained, Abdur Rahman ibn Muljam is perhaps the name which is mentioned in this respect. And the wounds then sustained by Hazrat Ali became the result of his martyrdom, and he also joined his beloved master, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and presented himself before his God. But the point is that ultimately, from all of these events, the conclusion that we draw is that all of the companions were pure. The Khulafa were always pure. If there was a difference of opinion, it was because they in their own minds had an understanding of what righteousness demanded for them. And when these misunderstandings were removed, which were caused by the rebels in the first place, they all came to terms with each other, and they were all ready to accept each other because they were pure-hearted individuals. And Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu became a Khalifa in a very difficult time. But the bravery and the courageousness and the sincerity and devotion with which he fulfilled his responsibilities and even put his life on the line, even his reputation on the line, demonstrates what a man of integrity he was.
Throughout his life, he was always ready to put his life on the line. And even at the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he was entrusted with huge tasks and given big responsibilities. One of those was at the time of Khaybar. Let's look at the fall of Khaybar and the role that Hazrat Ali had to play in this.
The Battle of Khaybar was of great significance in the life of Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Although many Jews had now become Muslims, some of them, along with other opponents of Islam, were busy inflaming the tribes against the Muslims. Some of the Jews had created pacts within their tribes with the intent of destroying the Muslims. They had also formed ties with the hypocrites among the Muslims and had also managed to persuade the Romans to conspire in their plots. Malicious propaganda was spread through correspondence as they sought to excite the Chosroes of Iran against Islam. As a result, he ordered the arrest of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, but before this could even happen, Chosroes was murdered by his own son. The failure of their plans only angered the Jews further, and they decided to attack Medina and annihilate the Muslims. Upon receiving news of this, the Holy Prophet ﷺ waited for 5 months, and when matters did not improve, he decided to banish them from Khaybar. In 628 AD, the Holy Prophet ﷺ marched on Khaybar with 1,600 men. Khaybar was surrounded by rocks on all sides, upon which were perched little fortresses. These small posts lying on the outskirts of Khaybar fell quickly after only limited fighting. The Jews then gathered into the central fort of the town, making an attack much harder. However, the Holy Prophet ﷺ received a revelation that Khaybar would fall at the hands of Hazrat Ali. The following morning, the Holy Prophet ﷺ announced to his followers and said, "Today I will hand over the black flag of Islam to him who is dear to God, his messenger, and all the Muslims. God has ordained that our victory at Khaybar should take place at his hands." The following day he sent for Ali radiallahu anhu and handed him the flag. Ali did not wait. He took his men and attacked the central fort. Although the Jews had collected in force inside this fort, Ali and his division were able to conquer it before dark. A peace treaty was signed, and through the hands of Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, under divine command, Khaybar was conquered and the imminent danger of Islam's annihilation was avoided.
Yasab, any concluding remarks about the life of Hazrat Ali?
Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was a man who from his childhood stood by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and the blessings that he received through the company of the Holy Prophet ﷺ are clearly evident in his person. And in every juncture of his life, at every juncture we find that he always upheld the unity of God and was always devoted to the Holy Prophet ﷺ.
I'd like to end with a quotation I picked out. It's a narration from a merchant cotton cloth who sells cotton cloth. His name is Abu Nawar, and he narrates that on one occasion Hazrat Ali came to his shop. At the time he was accompanied by one of his slaves. Hazrat Ali purchased 2 thin shirts and said to his slave, "Select the shirt you desire from among these 2." Hence the slave chose a shirt, and Hazrat Ali wore the one which was left behind. That's it.
It needs no more explanation.
Yeah.
Such a marvelous character, such a wonderful gesture for a person to do, for someone who's considered so demenial in society. It's a huge lesson for all of us Muslims. Hazrat Masih Maud, the promised Messiah alayhi salam, in his book, referring to Hazrat Ali, states that he was a righteous and pious individual and was among the most beloved people of the gracious God. He was among the honorable of the time. He was the triumphant lion of Allah and his loving servant. He was an example of perfection in every verity and was skilled in the art of articulation and eloquence. So we see from the life of all of these caliphs that each one had different characteristics. Each one was a shining example for us. Even to this day, we have much that we owe to the rightly guided Khilafat, that even 1400 years later, all of us Muslims should be praying for the departed souls of these Khalifas and continue to act on the path that they left for us. Each Khalifa had a different angle, different perspective, and a different talent, and they guided the Muslims through very difficult situations. Just like stars across the midnight sky, each one shining in their own glory and guiding people in a similar way, but in the right direction. Each and every Khalifa that we've examined throughout this series has shown that they were righteous men of God who were excellent examples for the whole Ummah. With that, I'd like to thank both our guests for being with us and sharing such valuable information on each of those caliphs, and with you also the viewers who have been through this journey on the rightly guided caliphs. I pray that may Allah also enable all of us to follow in their footsteps. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
إن الصحابة كلهم كذكائي قد نوروا وجه الورى بضيائي يا رب فارحمنا بصحب نبينا واغفر وأنت الله ذو آلائي